All right, so we have the case study, creative case study. This is looking back at chapter 2 in the text when they talked about aggressive innovation. And they say that doing something is always better than doing nothing. So how can we be creative in our innovation so that we can stay ahead of the curve? And that's something that we need to look at here. So for this exercise, I am asking you to be creative and be innovative in helping to solve a company issue. And so I'll read this part. It says, identify current and innovative cultural change initiatives by leading HR professionals and business leaders, and evaluate the process methods and success of their leadership surrounding the implementation process. So again, we're looking at specific case studies or specific groups or companies or leaders who are doing innovative things within their HR culture, within their company's culture, and we're evaluating if these innovative things are working or if they're not working. And we're also looking at the leadership surrounding the implementation process. So how is the leader navigating that change and navigating that innovation? So you're going to be reflecting on that in your paper. That's part 1. You choose one company to summarize or evaluate. So there's one specific company that you're going to look at. I have on here that the companies cannot be IBM, IDEO, or Google. Now, Google obviously is an innovative company, so if that was your case study, you would look at Google, you would look at some innovative things that Google is doing, you would analyze how their leadership is processing these things and how they're implementing these innovations. Is it helping the company? Is it not helping the company? Is it saving them money? Is it providing for new opportunity and growth? Is it helping prevent them from downsizing or other issues that the environment is currently pushing at them? So you kind of want to analyze it in that sense. Again, companies cannot be IBM, IDEO, or Google, and there's a reason for that because they're connected to the text and also to some of the videos and whatnot. And then remember that you're doing adequate research, so there's citations, you're referencing everything appropriately. Whenever I talk about citations and referencing things, in academic writing, you never want to have your paper just full of direct quotes and citations, because I don't really necessarily want to hear what everyone else has to say. I want to hear what you have to say. However, I will say this as well. You need those scholarly research to help support what you are trying to say. So if you're researching some online sources, or you're reading some articles in the book, or you're using the text, which you should, you want to use those things to help support your arguments and support the things that you're talking about. And then you obviously want to cite the things that you're writing about in terms of the company that you select, because you're probably reading specific articles on those companies, and you need to make sure that you cite that information and cite it correctly. So anyway, that's part 1, and that's explained within the assignment in week 7. Part 2 is the creative project part. So you're going to look at one major issue related within the place of your current employment. If you're currently not employed, or you're kind of in between jobs or doing part-time jobs, and you want to choose a former job, you're more than welcome to do that, or a former place of employment. But what you want to do, again, is find one major issue related to that place of employment that HR would be able to help provide a solution for. So there's lots of problems in every place that we work. I can name hundreds where I'm at. I'm sure you could name hundreds. Again, this would be a specific problem that HR is able to come in and assist with. So make sure that it connects with human resources in some way or another. And again, as you're reading in the text, human resources is very, very broad, and the chief HR officer has a lot on their plate. So almost everything really connects to HR in one way or another, but make sure that your issue does relate, because you're going to need to write about it. And then it says you're supposed to choose one of Michael Machako's creative brainstorming exercises and use it to find an out-of-the-box solution or remedy for your issue or problem. All right, so for those of you who did not sit in on my lecture, again, I think it was like a 4-hour lecture or whatnot, we went over a lot of these creative exercises and brainstorming exercises. So what I did was I posted at the bottom of week 7 a PowerPoint from my lecture at Wilmington. Now it's not going to have all of the notes that I provided during the presentation and all the clarifying examples, so you might not understand as much as you would if you were in the presentation. So if there's something that you don't understand when you're reading that, that would be something you want to ask me those questions, because you don't want to do this activity wrong. All right, so back to the assignment. You're going to choose one of those creative brainstorming exercises, and let me pull up the PowerPoint really quickly so I can name what you're going to be able to choose from. So we have a couple different types of analogies. We have the direct analogy, we have the symbolic analogy, we have the fantasy analogy, and we have the personal analogy. So you can choose any one of those 4 analogies to use on this assignment. Again, you're only choosing one creative brainstorming solution or process, sorry. So again, you can choose one of those 4 analogies: direct, symbolic, fantasy, or personal. And you can also use, or you could use the idea box, which is in the PowerPoint presentation. It's pretty easy to understand. And then the last would be mind mapping. Now, I don't have as much information on mind mapping, but we did go over that in class. If you want to know more about mind mapping, we can talk, and I can give you more of an idea of what that looks like. From looking at the pictures in the PowerPoint presentation, it doesn't do it justice, and you probably are thinking that it's something different than it really is. So stay away from mind mapping unless the other 5 options are options that really don't interest you at all, and we can talk a little bit more about mind mapping and how that would actually work, and I can give folks a demonstration of what that looks like. So anyway, there's only a few of you in the class, so again, if you choose mind mapping, you choose the idea box, you choose any of the 4 analogies, and you're having trouble trying to actually use them the way that they're supposed to work, send me an email, and we will maybe find a time, and I probably could explain this to you in about 10 minutes or less, and you'll feel a lot better about doing this assignment. So again, if you weren't in class, I would really encourage you to reach out to me if you don't feel like you got it. All right, so you're using one of those creative brainstorming exercises to help find a solution for your problem. So pick the problem, use one of these exercises to come up with solutions. Now the point of all of this, and I would have emphasized many times during the in-class presentation, is that these are truly out-of-the-box solutions. So when we think we're being creative, we're really not being creative, because we're already thinking in a linear fashion. So when we say, let me think of a really unique way to have a birthday party for one of my children. And we're saying, I'm going to be creative, I'm going to do something new and exciting. Well, usually usually I would say to people that they're really not being creative, because most of the time they're going to find and use things that they've seen other people do. Now, either directly or indirectly, or heard about somebody doing it already. There's very few times that we come up with something completely unique. And this brainstorming activity, these different ones that Michael Machako has created, he uses those within organizations and Fortune 500 companies and whatnot to help them come up with new revolutionary things. So we're going to use these brainstorming activities, and they're supposed to be weird, they're supposed to be strange, they're supposed to stretch you to think outside of what we already are thinking. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense there. And then finally, the last part of part 2 is you're using the outcome of what you found from your brainstorming exercise to come up with a creative and innovative change. So what did you learn from the brainstorming activity, and then you showing me how you kind of came up with your innovative change, and then the last part you write about is how would you implement that change. So there's a lot of stuff going on in this paper. Again, there's 2 parts to it. You actually have a case study that you're going to be writing about. That should be anywhere between 1 to 2 pages, writing about some things that you saw that this company is doing. And then you're going to look at a major issue, talk about that a little bit, and then you're going to find your creative exercise that's going to help you in solving that issue. And then finally, you're going to write what your innovative change is and how you're going to implement it as an HR leader. All right, so that's the main piece there. You can look at the rubric to see how I'm going to be grading the assignment. This is an assignment that does require APA guidelines, so make sure that you follow those. The very minimum that this paper should be, I have on there, is 3 pages. It's the very minimum, and that doesn't include your reference section and your title page. To do a good job on this assignment, I would suggest 4 to 5 pages. So that kind of gives you an idea of what we're looking for. Again, the minimum is 3. A good medium number would probably be 4 to 5 to do this well, because you can even use part of your page to take a picture of you using or doing your creative brainstorming. So if you're like writing something down, or you're using mind mapping or the box thinking, you'll take a picture and show me that you actually use that exercise. So you're going to want to add that to your presentation. All right, so that's the first piece. Don't get overwhelmed with that. It's really a lot easier than you think it is once you start get going with it. The second part, the second assignment is called the personal brand, and this is discussed a little bit in the HR practitioner book. It talks about the importance of being able to have your own vision and your own mission as a chief HR officer, and be able to present that. So you have to know yourself essentially before you can lead other folks. So this is allowing us to be self-reflective and to figure out what our own personal brand is. So hopefully this for you is kind of like a fun culmination project for this course. And I did this myself, and I love this assignment, so hopefully you love it as much as I did. Very, very easy assignment, because you're the only one who can come up with the true answers, because these are questions about yourself. Now, to get a good grade on it, you just need to make sure that you answer the questions that are asked, and do the work. So we have here how to design or build your own personal brand. Well, I kind of give you an outline of what that should look like. There's no specific format on how you present this, so it doesn't need to be APA. You can use creative pictures. You can use, again, different formatting. And so don't be stressed about that, but there are a couple things that you need to at least answer. So I said make sure you have the following. You'll have a logo, so you'll create your own logo that represents you. Number 2, you'll have a personal mission statement, and hopefully you know what that is. If not, please let me know. It's a mission statement for yourself. A mission statement shouldn't be more than a couple sentences. It should be able to be something that you can actually live out. It's the things that are most important to you, and so you can look at what different mission statements are that different organizations have, and you can take what you need to take from them. And I said a personal mission statement or a tagline, because a lot of companies will have a tagline that says like innovation excellence, and that's the tagline. Leading people towards this or doing this. So you need a personal mission statement or a tagline. That's the second piece. And then there's 7 questions that I want you to answer in trying to figure out what your personal brand is. Now those 7 questions are in bold on the assignment here, and then in parentheses I have some sub-questions that will help you answer your main question. You don't need to answer specifically those sub-questions. That just helps you understand what I'm asking. So for example, number 1 is core values. So I put in parentheses, what do you think your core values are? So you can answer that question, what are my core values? And then you can list your core values and probably try to explain why those are core values to you, not just like list 3 things or something like that. Number 2 is key strengths and weaknesses. So to help you kind of answer that question, I came up with other questions like, what is my key skill set? What is my expertise? What are my weaknesses that may be holding me back? We talked a little bit about strengths again in week 5 or this week. Unique value proposition. So here are some questions that help you kind of understand what I'm looking for here. It says, what is your unique expertise or value that differentiates you from everyone else, or at least differentiates you from the majority? Personality/image attributes. So the question here is, how do you come across to others? Like, how do they perceive you? What are the key adjectives that describe your personality or describe your look or your style? Number 5 is leadership attributes. What kind of leader are you, essentially? Number 6, relationship attributes. What is it like to engage with you professionally and socially? And then number 7 is, what is a living or inanimate thing that best represents your brand? So what you want to do, this is kind of similar to that analogy idea. You want to come up with a living or an inanimate object or thing that describes you. So for the example I have here is it's a Saint Bernard dog. So let's say you'll put a picture or say I'm a Saint Bernard dog, and why? Because I'm somebody who's trusted. I'm somebody who's loyal. I'm somebody that comes to people's rescue. The other example I have is I'm a Mini Cooper. So you could say I'm efficient. I'm fun to drive. I have a quirky sense of style. So you can be as creative as you need to be. And again, you can use that analogy idea from my presentation to do that.